People usually think of domestic violence like it's a physical act of violence, that it has to be somebody being physically beaten up in order for it to be domestic violence, which is the case. But domestic violence is a pattern. It is an act used to gain power and control over another individual, usually in an intimate relationship. The first type, of course, is physical abuse, but a lot of people would be surprised when they tell me my partner has never hit me, and then they have bruises up and down on their arms. And when I ask them, well, how did you get those bruises? They say to me, well, my partner pushed me. Pushing and shoving and grabbing is a form of physical violence. Or even when somebody throws something at you, when somebody breaks your belongings, that's a form of physical violence. But a lot of us don't see it that way. Emotional abuse is when your feelings get hurt, your partner hurts your feelings. You say to your partner, you know what, babe, that really hurt my feelings. And then they do it again. That's emotional abuse. A lot of emotional abuse is also used to gain power and to keep the control over the victim or the survivor. Gaslighting is a new term for mental abuse. It is when somebody plays mind games with you. Somebody who you are in a relationship with hides your personal objects like your cell phone, your keys, and then they help you look for them as they know exactly where they're at. Somebody who plays mind games with you, who might say something to you, and then as soon as you repeat it back, they say to you, I never said that. What are you talking about? You must be crazy because I never said that. Somebody who wants you to maybe kind of lose your mind a little bit, that's mental abuse. And in mental abuse, a lot of us do not even know that we are being mentally abused. It takes years of living under this abuse to even consider it abuse. Also, mental abuse is when you might have an opinion, or you have a dream, or you have something to say, and your partner tells you that your opinion doesn't matter, that your dreams are not worthy. And it's done in a very subtle way, and it is done continuously in a manipulative manner. And there's also a lot of guilt involved in this type of abuse. Spiritual abuse does have something to do with the religious aspect of maybe your perpetrator putting down your religion, making fun of your holidays, putting down your traditions, making fun of your god or your goddess. That's spiritually being abused. Or you can also be forced to praise a god that you're not even familiar with. That's spiritual abuse. But spiritual abuse is also when the person that you are dating, you're in a relationship with, your husband or your wife, they put you down on a regular basis. They make fun of you. They say things to you that might not seem like a big deal in the beginning, but then it begins to add up little by little. For example, are you going to wear that? Or who asked you? Or shut that off? Or stop your whining. Or one of the most popular ones that I actually heard my entire life growing up was, you're too sensitive. Can't you take a joke? I was just kidding. Spiritual abuse is meant to break down the human spirit little by little. And it doesn't happen overnight. But by the end, when the victim survivor realizes that there's something terribly wrong, that victim survivor doesn't have a voice anymore, has lost her being. I have a lot of survivors of spiritual abuse who tell me that they felt like they were just walking around this earth without any feelings, maybe numb to the world. What happens with verbal abuse is that it will escalate to physical violence. It always does. So by the time that somebody's being physically abused, there have probably been months, if not years, of verbal and mental abuse. Sexual abuse can be not being allowed to use contraceptives, being forced to have an abortion, being told that you are not a sexual being, so therefore you cannot express yourself sexually in the way that you dress, or being forced to dress in a more provocative sexual manner that you're not comfortable with. And for somebody that's being sexually abused in an intimate relationship, that person has difficulties disclosing or telling anyone about this form of abuse. And because a lot of us, especially me, I was raised in a Mexican Catholic home, I was taught that it was my duty to be there and available for my husband whenever he needed my sexual favors. It wasn't something that I was told was expected of me, but it was taught in an unspoken way in my culture or in my family. Digital abuse is coercing or forcing or manipulating your partner to giving you their password to their cell phone or their computer. And I've worked with many cases of digital abuse. And you know what happens with digital abuse is that the perpetrator, because there's that anonymity, they are more cruel. And the messages that I have read from teenagers sometimes make me wonder. And sometimes I've read messages, female on male violence, and sometimes I'm embarrassed to be a woman with the things that I've actually read in these explicit and brutally violent text messages.